Alright, hello, welcome back. My name is Myre, and today we're going to have a look at the Reputation System AMA recap from last week. Alright, let's go for it. So, each month we host an open submission live Q&A on Spectrum, joined by developers from various specialties across CIG. These questions and answers were collected from the Spectrum AMA on May the 13th, 2021. So I think we'll do this from now on. We'll put this onto YouTube as well. Alright, so this time we welcomed 4 guests from different departments who answered players' questions on how we want to further iterate the reputation system and provided insights into the decisions we've made. So, they had Luke Presley, who is a lead designer, William Weisbaum, who is a lead writer, Rob Reiniger, who is a lead systems designer, and Ben Dorsey, who is a senior systems designer. Alright, so this of course is the curated list of AMA questions. I believe almost all dev answers are on this list, but there might be some in Spectrum if you guys want to go check that out there as well. Alright, with that being said, let's check out the first question. So, will some ships be locked behind a reputation wall, so that you need a specific amount of positive reputation with a company or organization to be able to buy it? Things that come to mind are things like, the Mantis, for instance, is like a police ship by RSI that you can use to stop ships in trade lanes. It seems a bit weird to have something like that be sold in an open market. So, if yes, what happens if one already pledged for that ship? Could they still use the ship right away, or must they also meet the reputation requirements like the one who wants to buy it in-game? That's an amazing question. So, Rob Reiniger says, we're looking to gate many things in the game, both items as well as ships, behind reputation system. We have to remember that without a leveling system, reputation is one of our more significant progression in our game, if not the most. So now that it's in, we'll be looking to get this hooked into all forms of rewards mechanisms moving forwards. As for what happens with people that already have these ships, you'll always have access to these ships through the ASOP, so they're not locking people who've purchased these ships outright from using their ships with the reputation system. However, what you will likely see as we move forwards is that mission content, which will ultimately include large-scale hauling missions, will likely be gated behind reputation and or org membership. And org membership in this vein doesn't mean like, test squadron or things like that. It means things like, the TDD and things like the actual in-game NPC organizations. So, in general, this is a cool sign. Again, there's no leveling in Star Citizen, so how else are you going to progress in this game? Well, through reputation. They're not locking us out of using these ships, but the missions and stuff that will be involved with those ships will be locked out until that same amount of reputation is gained, which is really cool. I really like this idea a lot. And, for the most part, a lot of these ships that people pledge for that aren't your standard starter ship or fighter are essentially just genres and new gameplay loops. So essentially these genres and gameplay loops will be locked out for you and still be gated that way. You'll be able to do things with them, but just not things that you would necessarily have the most fun doing until you get to the same stage as other players. But it does mean that the moment you reach that reputation cap, you can start that gameplay immediately. So it's, it's cool. All right, so follow-up question. Can you expand a bit on org membership? I would assume that you're talking about NPC orgs like the Bounty Hunters Guild and the like. So we kind of just touched on this ourselves, but Rob says, yes, this is correct. The topic of org membership is not finalized, so I'd prefer to wait until we can share more concrete plans for this without causing any speculation or confusion about the matter. What's important right now is that we build the system with any permutation of this concept in mind, so the system will be able to support whatever way we decide to utilize this feature. Although to be 100% clear, this is not implemented in the current game release as of this moment. Alright. So, the next question is, will reputation system allow players to unlock exclusive and not exclusive ships, ship weapons, ship components, FPS weapons, armor, suits, skins, etc. from some factions and mission givers? For example, the Gladius Valiant for the UEE or Northrok Service Group, the Gladius Pirate for the Pirates factions or the Criminal factions, the Mercury Night Runner for the Crusader, etc. So just, ships and ship skins. Other examples, with a good Hurston reputation, they could give us some free Hurston items. Not sure about free, but maybe, unlocking the attritions at a certain level would be cool. We can imagine all those items would be unlockable in shops after reaching a level with the faction. So Rob again says, what we have been talking about a lot recently is exactly what rewards will be associated with each org/reputation track, and at which ranks we see these types of things be rewarded. One of the things we discussed is things like unlocking an org's paint or tint colors for use on particular item types at some of the higher ranks, which I think generally covers what you're talking about with the question. The answer is yes, we are 100% looking at the best way to incorporate a much broader use of the paint tinting system into the game, and reputation will be a significant delivery mechanism for this type of reward. As to how I see this working, if you say unlock the microtech colors, you would be a significant delivery mechanism for this type of reward. As to how I see this working, if you say unlock the microtech colors, you would, sorry, I just read the same line twice. You would have to go back to New Babbage to a local shop in order to paint/color your item or ship with that tint. So it's not enough just to get the reputation. You'll also have to physically go back to that shop, maybe a reputation shop or whatever, to get the thing that you have now earned. It won't just show up in your inventory. For factions or organizations that don't have a clear home base, say Microtech, we will have to figure out, one, where we could potentially unlock this feature, and two, if it's a smaller org within the game, is their colors something we want to release? Because of course, if it's like a small in-game organization with a really cool, unique color scheme, if everybody gets exalted with them and has their colors, they're no longer a small, unique, guild. But generally, yes, this is where we're going to be in the future. So, I guess they've talked about this one organization in the Pyro system. I forget what they're called. They're like basically the Power Rangers. They're not necessarily like bad guys, but they're like mercenaries. And I think they're called the Overlords. And they don't have like a set base, but they were talking about maybe having like several separate unique areas where they could spawn in, that you have to go there and find them and talk to them. People like them would be very different, than like, let's say, Microtech in terms of getting their rewards. So as for shops specifically, we plan on having the items in the shops with purchasable requirements shown to players when we revamp the shopping experience. So you'd see the reputation specific item in the inventory, but as an example, you'd see required Microtech rep rank 8. So that's just an example, but currently we only have up to like 6 ranks, but I guess this is Rob saying that that's, also subject to change. So, follow-up question. You talk about org paint. You mean unlocking NPC orgs paints, don't you? Yeah, so not player orgs, like, again, like Redshift, our org, or Test Squadron, or, Explore, anything like that. So this is the correct assumption. I mean that when you get to rank X with Crusader Security on a particular career track, so like Crusader Security is an org, but a track could be bounty hunting, a track could be logistics, like trading, a track could be like, I guess, bounty movement or something like that, like a prison ship thing or medical. You might unlock the Crusader Security color scheme. Maybe available as, say, Origin. Since an organization might have several career paths, this might be the kind of thing that is seen as a reward on all the careers at a given rank, or potentially their core career path. Of which I mean, If it's a policing organization, maybe only the bounty hunting track has it available there. But we have complete flexibility to dole things out at any level within the reputation system. So if we wanted to offer it at rank 5 in one track but rank 7 in another, that would be a possibility. The point is, we have the ability to associate these things where we feel it's appropriate. Later iterations of the Reputation Manager have a rewards tab that we'd like to add that will catalog the entire org's set of rewards in one place, so you don't have to click on each rank to see what the benefits are. What you've currently got unlocked, etc., as USPU, so the United States Persistent Universe team, is an extremely busy team. I can't say for sure when this rewards tab will make an appearance though. Know that it's on the list of stuff that we'd like to do to enhance the system. Alright, so that's cool. Looking forward to it. Again, just extrapolating on what they've said earlier. So they talked now about tracks. Right now in the PU, I don't think that orgs have more than one track, but they've talked again about, like, again, Crusader security being a bounty hunting, you know, or security like thing mainly, but you know, you could have like a, I don't know, data running sect or like a cargo running sect or, you know, a track. And with these things, they might give you different benefits, bonuses, and items. Alright, so will it be possible to tank a reputation so hard it's unrecoverable? So like be a mega bounty hunter, or like, sorry, yeah, be a mega bounty hunter and like just be hated by the Ninetales, or like I guess kill players on pads 24/7 and be like, you know, hated by Port Olisar and Crusader. So all reputations will decay towards neutral over time, positive and negative. That said, the worse the reputation, the longer it'll take for people to forget about just how awful you are. So I'm not really a fan of the idea of decay, you know? Like, if I get to level 8 in an organization's track, and, you know, I take a break from Star Citizen, you know, I stop playing for 2 months. If I'm now level 5, that's gonna suck, you know? Like, I don't think there's any other game out there that does that. And even like Korean MMOs where like you die and you lose experience and you can like de-level, you know, like you still have to do something real bad, real dumb to do that. But I don't know, we'll see. Because if it's like, oh, you have to get to level 8 to get like the permissions to be able to like buy something, and then you get the stuff and say you don't need the rep, then whatever, right? But if it's you need that rep to go somewhere, then it's you know, it's kind of, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see just how bad it is. Maybe I'm freaking out because I don't have anything I can really connect that to. Alright, so will some star systems be locked behind a reputation wall? So this time around, not items, but star systems, so that you will need a specific amount of positive reputation with a company or organization to be able to enter it. So this time around, Ben Dorsey says, we plan to make things more diegetic than just saying, no, you can't go here until you hit reputation X. So diegetic just means, in this case, more immersive, more like it makes sense. So we instead have plans to make it so that an area is heavily patrolled or guarded by Organization X, or a jump point is controlled by Organization Y. Then it becomes potentially interesting gameplay to try and deal with those obstacles, which would sometimes be as insurmountable, as we can make them. So we don't necessarily know how long it would take to, say, use a jump point. You know, once you find one, or you have to fly into it, or you have to stop and scan it, then fly. You know, because let's say, again, you have a very negative reputation with most of the organizations in, like, let's say, the Stanton, which is a UEE area, right? And let's say, I don't know, the UEE military has a big fortification area outside the Stanton to Pyro jump point. If you are a pirate, then, yeah, the moment you enter there, people are going to start shooting at you. So you would need good reputation to be able to go there unscathed. Or maybe you just like zip through at full speed. We don't really know. But that's an interesting idea of making it so that the game doesn't say you need to be, you know, reputation X to go somewhere, but oh, these guys own the area? Well, in that case, I'm gonna have to try and get, you know, in their good graces so they'll allow me to do it without, you know, like attacking me. So on the topic of degradation, Haldor says, I would say if your level progress degrades, would be fine, but maybe not have you lose rep level. So you can lose all your progress from going to level 5 to 6, but you wouldn't drop from, you know, below level 5. I would say, yeah, 100% Haldor. That's how KMMOs do things. I don't think there are many KMMOs out there nowadays that when you die and you lose like experience points, you actually de-level, but you go down to like level, you know, whatever level you are, 0 experience. That's just how it's done, even at the most extreme of MMOs. So I really do hope that's the case. I could live with that. What I couldn't live with is, you know, like actually, you know, properly deranking unless I do something stupid, you know, that's against that organization, like, you know, killing organization members and stuff like that. You know, if I'm level 8 with Hurston and I start blowing up Hurston ships, then, you know, I've earned that D level. All right, so are missions that we see going to be filtered by reputation? So if Group A likes me and Group B hates me, will I still see missions from Group B or only from A? So Luke Presley, the senior designer, says, our current thinking is that you'll only be able to see missions you're eligible for or close to being eligible for. This will provide players with a glimpse to the missions available just beyond their current standing, for instance. So we kind of already have this in the PU right now. We just need more missions and that kind of thing. But yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, so Zero Lambda says, or just run the blockade. You know, yeah, there are blockade running ships like the Bonu Merchantman, which is supposed to be a blockade runner, and the MSR. So that could be a thing, you know, like going into those jump points in stealth or relative stealth. That'd be cool. So, how will reputation work for things like holding contracts? Will there be conditions like how fast goods are delivered, if they're damaged, etc.? So Luke again says we definitely are going to be adding levels of success to missions wherever possible. These may be advertised or hidden from the player. We want to try this first with a variant of the time-sensitive delivery missions where players are to deliver as much cargo as possible, gambling that they can load, travel, and unload in time. The more you deliver, the bigger the reward in UEC and reputation. So, yeah, just the better you do something, the better your reputation. That's as good as it gets, I guess, you know, like, one thing they could do, which they haven't talked about yet, but in other games of this nature, it's generally a thing, is, like, trade deposits and stuff. Like, let's say you have, like, a Hull E, right? You can carry all the things, and there's a mission to carry all the things, right? There is nothing in it for you if you know, like, just were to accept, or, you know, there is something in it for you, of course, there's profit. But what I mean to say is that there's no risk to you if you just get all the things and you move all the things from A to B, and, like, you get blown up in, you know, like, midway. In some games, there is, like, a deposit system where, like, let's say you have to transport 20 million UECs worth of stuff. You have to put down, like, I don't know, maybe like a 5 million UEC deposit so that if you fail, then you don't get your deposit back, you know? Like, or if you don't deliver in time, you only get a fraction of your deposit back. That'd be cool. And I could see that working with this, but it's not necessarily a reputation thing, but it's more of a gameplay thing that would make more sense, because when we get physicalized inventory, if you take a mission to move all the things and then you just, like, go give that stuff to other people who would have pirated it in the first place, then it's kind of like a weird gray area. All right, so have there been any thoughts or plans to add profession-based contracts to Star Citizen? What I mean is mining, cargo, and transport, medical, salvage, etc. For instance, a mining contract to find a new element or deliver refined agricium to a specific location. Or even just like a mining contract to mine something people don't like tin. In turn, this could affect reputation for that profession, which could unlock new contracts or access to mining aids or bonuses. Thanks. So Rob Reiniger says, so there is a few things to unpack here. So yes, we'll be adding profession-specific missions, the first of which will likely be cargo hauling. What I mean by that is that you are being paid to transport an existing set of cargo for a company from one place to another. Alright, so this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. The idea with other professions, say for instance exploration, might be to find new celestial bodies or new locations, etc. But yes, as we refactor the cargo system as a whole, we would like to change the current commodity trading such that players can lock in contracts to deliver X amount of cargo type Y to location Z for a guaranteed price per unit. Things of this nature. And other professions will fall in line with similar types of missions as they relate to each profession's key gameplay roles or goals. As for profession-specific reputations, just as we have a generic bounty hunters guild, we will have a specific reputation for each profession. This will be a key contributor for when you go to new locations and the types of missions you will see there, basically giving you access with a specific org's mission track without doing some of the beginner missions. So that's, in general, again, because we don't have leveling per se in Star Citizen, this will be that leveling system for those professions. Moreover, they say that if you were to, say, get a high rep with an org in one system, that might confer a high rep or like a higher rep than neutral with another org in another system, so you're not starting from scratch. And I guess that'll help with, let's say, when you want to move home base, not having to start from scratch, not having to really, truly, over consider the risks of doing so, like moving home base from Terra to Stanton. Yeah, so a better reputation for a less, equaling less of a deposit needed would be a really cool idea of linking those two things together for sure, yeah. So, can you tell us about reputation system and, if possible, interaction with player orgs? Is it something planned for the near future, or is it better to temper our hopes for the time being? Thank you, okay. So Ben Dorsey says, we've discussed two primary interactions between player orgs and reputation quite heavily. So the first is player orgs having a reputation, so one org as a body having their own reputation, much like a player can, with other NPC orgs and NPCs. The answer to this one is a resounding yes. Barring unforeseen future complications, the framework we have implemented allows for this, and we plan to do this. So, without going to the second one just yet, let's use the word let's unpack this one. So if you're a small org with a very pinpoint idea of what you want to do, this makes sense and that's cool. If you're in a big old nebulous org like Test Squadron, 20,000 members or whatever, right? Because they're the biggest, I'll use that as an example. That doesn't necessarily sound like the best idea, because now that you're in this huge org, some people are going to want to be good guys, bounty hunters or whatever, and gain reputation with that guy. Others might do something completely different. And, something that on a personal level might get you like a lower level and that kind of thing. So does that mean that you will have to leave these larger orgs if their gameplay isn't in line with what you want to do to progress? That's a big one. So, the other interaction is allowing for player orgs to set up their own rules for a reputation that players can earn. Also, Seg, thank you for the raid, by the way. While the reputation system is built to allow for it, at current we don't plan to do this. It was heavily debated, and I can't rule anything out forever, but the current feeling was that the cons outweighed the pros. Most of the cons revolved around removing or reducing player interactions and community building that we want to encourage. Right, so that was again a no for allowing player orgs to set up their own rules for reputation that players can earn. So, whilst it would be cool from an RP standpoint, maybe perhaps it's a bit, just weird. So, as far as the near future part of your question, these are more long-term plans. The best method of tracking our progress on this will be on the public roadmap. It's not currently slated for this year. All right, next question. So what will happen when we will have hundreds of quest givers and companies? Are you already planning on a redesign for the app? So the app again is the new, what is it called again? The Delphi, they call it, which is the reputation manager. Adding, for example, filters with star systems and planets, etc. So Ben Dorsey says, yes, we've planned out multiple additional iterations on the reputation app for when more content and systems come online. Two of the things those future versions would add are a filtering system and a sorting system that will allow for grouping similar organizations and contracts together, or contacts together even. These would supplement the favorite system that we have in the current implementation by clicking the star on the left of the org contact to sort reputations you want to keep an eye on the top of your list. So essentially the answer to this question is yes, there'll be a filter so that, like, you know, when we do have several systems, you won't just have a mishmash of things that have no like link to it. It would be like maybe per system, or maybe perhaps there'd be a filter for it for you to do things more manually. And to that, you know, there is that favorite system so that you can have it on a more manual kind of basis. All right, next question. So, hello. So Star Citizen will be very based on missions, quests, and reputations. But how widely and how extensively will this system be implemented? Will it take up half of our future gameplay and money making, or will we seek our own adventures and not rely too much on missions and reputation? So, very interesting question. Like, how much freedom in this sandbox universe are we going to have when it comes to, you know, like, I guess, progression? So, Luke Presley says, reputation will be one of the main progression gates, meaning to get the biggest rewards, you will likely have to work your way up through the ranks. You're always free to mine, trade, and salvage, but if you build reputation with orgs, you may be able to sell for more or skip the queue, etc. So that's a good point. Skip the queue. Maybe perhaps a refinery deck might have a queue that you have to, like, you know, wait if you're not a member of the org to be able to, like, use the executive, like, refineries and that kind of thing. Or, you know, wait to unload your ship at a dock. You know, like, if you're a free trader with no reputation, you might have to wait, I don't know, several minutes longer than somebody who has, like, an exalted reputation to, like, you know, get your ship, like, I guess, taken care of. They did speak earlier of the fact that if you did have a ship of a specific reputation, like mining and trade and that kind of thing, that you'd be able to use it out the gate. But you might not necessarily have missions and stuff that will be able to serve those particular things until you've actually, you know, played the game. All right, so and there will be plenty of content found out in the sandbox, which will provide opportunities outside of quests and such. Things like encounters players can come across which may have nothing to do with their reputation or may be affected by their reputation. Take, for example, coming across a Kovalex convoy attacked by Ninetales. You might instinctively try to protect the convoy and unwittingly receive reputation with the org for doing so, whilst also taking a rep hit with a Ninetales. Next time you come across this encounter, due to your low rep with a Ninetales, they might prioritize you as a target. And I suppose it might go, you know, the other way as well, if that's how you want to play the game. So, if I build my reputation for any career field at Lorville, will I have to start from scratch for the entire planet of Hurston? I don't get that question, because Lorville is in Hurston. What if I go to another planet? Will I have to rebuild it at Crusader? Same for Stanton. When I go to Pyro, will I have to start from scratch? Will there be an intergalactic reputation that will span cities and planets and systems, or even human and Xi'an space? Or does my reputation from Lorville feed a bigger reputation that spans different locations? So this was touched upon very slightly before, so now we're going to have a bit of a bigger kind of explanation, I guess. So Rob says, if I understand your question correctly, this is what we have the Global Bounty Hunters Guild reputation for. When you go to a new planet and want to partake in a bounty hunting career, missions for a specific faction, say Crusader Security's bounty hunting missions, they will consider your bounty hunter's guild reputation as to what level of missions you will see available from them. So while we don't want this to completely circumvent the career ranks, this will give you access to higher level missions from the start, which should allow you to bypass the lower level ranks fairly quickly, which is another incentive to move around the systems and participate in content outside your starting zone. So I like this. Currently in the PU though, you do kind of have to rely on this Universal Bounty Hunters Guild to be able to get better missions for somewhere that you have been like solo leveling in. For instance, currently in the PU, if you wanted to level with Hurston Security, they would give you missions, but they will not give you missions higher than what the Bounty Hunters Guild would give you for a particular rank. So like, let's say I have like access to like medium level bounties with the Bounty Hunter Guild. Hurston Security, no matter my reputation level, will only give me missions of that difficulty. I don't find that necessarily cool, but that again is only how it currently works. Maybe in the future, like as you level with Hurston, they will give you more Hurston things, but because I didn't, work with the Bounty Hunters Guild as a whole, and that level is still low, then like, if I was to go to ArcCorp, I would suffer for that, but from a role-playing standpoint, I don't really care about ArcCorp. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. Alright, so how do you plan to avoid rep grind as a gameplay necessity? That's kind of like saying, how do you plan to avoid leveling up as a gameplay necessity? But I suppose SC kind of like, it's dedicated to so many different kinds of gameplay styles. So Ben Dorsey says this is a tricky one, since grind is one heck of a negative connotation, and rightfully so in many cases. For some people, not everybody. But I've been wanting to elaborate on this ever since the Reputation video was posted. So, the reputation system is built to have very long-term goals, which does mean you will need to play the game for a long time to achieve higher tiers, and that's sort of a grind. We want players to have a long-term goal that they can work towards. Otherwise, what's the point of playing? It's like right now, in Star Citizen in the PU, your long-term goal is buying ships in-game, because that's the only thing to do. And, once you get to a point where you have, like, tens of millions of credits, that goal is lost, and now you're left, I don't know, shooting pads at Port Olisar or something, So, not that I do that, but anyway. So our goal thus isn't to avoid any grind, it's to avoid a bad one. Yeah, exactly. That's, the best you can get really for an MMO. So what I mean by bad grind is anything that forces you to do boring, repetitive gameplay. To avoid this in the future, what we have in the game right now is definitely repetitive. We know. We have a few different things planned. So, the various sandbox elements of the game, allowing different solutions to the same mission, encouraging more player interactions, both friendly and foe, by having missions collide more with this whole like counter mission system that they've talked about before. Dynamically created missions that pick from a pool of mission pieces, so that even the base mission is different most of the time. That'd be cool. And allowing you to build reputation by working for an ally. So an ally in this case would be like, instead of working for the Bounty Hunters Guild, working for Crusader might give you increased reputation with the Bounty Hunters Guild because they are allied together, which will allow you to avoid just doing bounty hunting guild missions. That's cool. So all of these things are intended to make it so that even if you are grinding reputation with Organization X for weeks, it should stay interesting and engaging. You would be earning reputation for things you already want to do. And yeah, that's all there is to it, really. So will reputations become interconnected? So they talked about allies already. If I do missions for a criminal contact or a mission giver, will I automatically lose rep with the advocacy or Crusader Security? So they've talked about allies, now we're going to be talking about foes, right? Or I guess rivals. So Ben Dorsey says, yes, there is a rudimentary version of the enemies and ally system in-game right now, but it isn't driving much content yet. You can see who they are, but it doesn't really affect anything. You can see a bit of it in the bounty hunting guild gaining reputation when you do the bounty hunters missions for other affiliated orgs. So kind of what we talked about before, but it's still heavily weighted right now with that global guild, the bounty hunters guild, for now in the PU. So we have plans to expand upon this system heavily. Alright, so will we be able to bribe our way to a better rep or mission with an org mission giver, or bribe an org mission giver to overlook bad or undesired conduct or actions? So in Elite Dangerous, to give you an example, this is something you can do. You don't have to necessarily do missions. If you want a rep grind, there's also the possibility of donations. So just like pumping in loads of cash into an org to help out with that to a limit, you know? So Ben Dorsey then says, yes, in certain cases, some orgs or contacts will have interactions where they would normally act in X way because your reputation is below X threshold, but they might temporarily overlook that reputation if you immediately give them something. A common example would be slipping a bouncer some money to get into a club. So like a temporary thing. There also are plans to allow you to gain reputation by bringing an org or contact something they like. Kind of like a dating sim, huh? Though it should be something more gameplay interesting than just money. So that's that Elite Dangerous thing there, but instead of like say giving Wallace Klim 10,000 credits, giving him, I don't know, 5 units of etam or something. So we drew on a few different game types for inspiration when developing the system, and among them were social simulators, so that's another way of saying dating sims. Interesting. Alright, okay, or you know, like as Kevin says in chat, yeah, lobbying the system to some degree, huh? Alright, so will you be able to level up lawful rep and unlawful rep at the same time? So pirates versus bounty hunters, or will doing one diminish the other? I suppose only when like they're actually like, you know, neck to neck rivals. So Will Weissbaum, the lore guy, says, with the ally and rivalry system, we want to have it so that you will need to make decisions regarding who you want to earn reputation with. Working for an organization's rival will impact your standing with that group. So, you know, I foresee people making like thread boards and stuff and making sure that they ensure that they never lose rep with their favorite org. I wonder how deep it goes. Like, you know, if, you know, like the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but like, if I do something to piss somebody's rival off, will I lose rep with that person as well? I don't know. We'll see how deep it's going to be. Alright, so why do we lose so much reputation for abandoning or failing a mission in the PU, especially at higher reputation levels? So explanation, a fresh associate you don't know very well, so for instance low rep level, should lose more reputation and lose rep faster than someone who's extremely high reputation and has proven themselves over and over to be reliable. That way, reputation counts for something. An employee who works for me for 5 years and does an outstanding job will get a lot more slack than someone who just joined the company 1 month ago. In real life, yeah, that makes sense. Luke Presley says, reputation is currently only represented in bounty hunting, which is a high-risk, high-reward field of work. Personally, I cut more slack to newer, less experienced employees learning the ropes and expect more from experienced ones. So, Luke is saying, in this case, this is how it works for bounty hunting, but maybe not for, you know, trade. So failure at a higher level hurts the company more. I get your line of thought totally, but if I was sending employees out to take on bounties that they were bested over and over, I definitely feel they were out of their depth and quickly drop them down a level. And that makes perfect sense in the bounty hunting case, you know? And it could make sense, you know, elsewhere as well. I mean, like, think of companies where one guy makes a decision and that costs the company like $1 billion in real life, right? So it makes sense in the case of bounty hunting. I like that Luke Presley said this is how it worked for bounty hunting. It does mean that, you know, there might be more lenient orgs and more lenient tracks that out there, but I do like this question a lot. It gives you a lot to think about. Alright, so will a high reputation with the bounty hunting factions in each jurisdiction allow us to enter areas that normally give us a trespassing charge, so we can hunt down the baddies without committing a crime? I really do hope so. So Luke says, reputation with bounty hunting guilds will, I hope, allow for even more exciting things, like being able to carry a non-lethal weapon inside the rest stops and such. Yes, so we've seen inklings of this ever since ArcCorp was in its first iteration back in like 2015. You know, like outside ArcCorp's like a main Area 18 entrance, it was like, you know, no weapons allowed inside unless you have a security clearance of level 6, right? That was what it said. Maybe perhaps not level 6, I don't remember the level. But that'd be really cool, especially since they're removing armistice zones at things like rest stops. But of course, you'll have to likely leave your weapons somewhere. They're not gonna do any of that until, of course, physicalized inventory comes in, so that you can't just, you know, put your weapons away, then bag of holding them back into existence. But yeah, anyway, I guess we could talk about that at some point, but yeah, like, just hear me out. So let's say you have a level 6 clearance, so you can pull a weapon into, let's say, Area 18, and it's less than lethal because that's what they've said here in this document, right? But somebody else isn't. Will Area 18, like, I guess, have records of that weapon, so that if you say, for instance, place that weapon on a table and allow somebody else to use that weapon against somebody else who doesn't have that reputation, will you, as the bounty hunter, lose reputation for having your service weapon be used by somebody else? I really do hope so. That'd be really cool. You know, it's such a huge risk and reward play. But anyway, so I should say though that the current implementation of trespass zones is temporary. We currently have to give a crime stat for security and defenses there to turn hostile and to put up a fight. We're working on a security system which, among many more things, will allow for players to trespass in a zone and only receive a crime stat if spotted, arrested, or killed there, while being attacked by the defenses. Right now, there's like an all-seeing eye, like which are the comrades that will just go, hey, no. But that's cool. All right, so do we lose reputation over time by not engaging with a certain faction? So an explanation. A fresh associate you don't know very well, so for instance a low rep level, should lose more rep and faster than somebody who's extremely high reputation. That way reputation counts for something. This is the exact same question, is it not? But I guess it's the same person, and so it's phrased differently. So the main question is, do we lose reputation over time by not engaging? So if my associate leaves to travel to another country for a while, say the solar system in game, and does not work for me during that time, but always did an outstanding job, I love how it's always the same scenario, I will not value him any less when he returns. As a matter of fact, I'd be happy to welcome him back. Much more so than someone who worked for me for 1 month before leaving. So Luke Presley says, yes, there is decay built into the system, and we will be using it. We can decay to the bottom of the current standing and no further, or all the way back to 0. The rate of decay will be something controllable between orgs. There is also a decay back to 0 should you go into the negative, which means even orgs who hate you will be approachable after a time. So Luke here is essentially saying that they can and likely will have it both ways. So us saying before that, oh, I mean, I hate the idea of getting to level 6, right? And, you know, waking up 2 months later and being level 2, that might only be the case for certain really, I don't know, like specific orgs. Whereas with others, you just go back to the bottom of that level. That's cool. The idea there being that they have already thought of both ways. Alright, so what kind of non-combat organizations are in the planning, development, or concepting stage? So right now, again, all we have is bounty hunting. So Will Weisbaum, who is the lore guy, says, we are working on having a wide breadth of organizations to cover most of the gameplay activities that we want players to engage in, ranging from food delivery companies to roadside assistance. For instance, space side assistance. The basic idea is that there will be smaller local companies that service a planetary system, medium companies that service the entire solar system, and larger companies that service multiple star systems. So I guess that would be like, for instance, Crusader Security being for Crusader, then the Bounty Hunters Guild being for the Stanton system and maybe other systems as well. And then, Advocacy or something being like, the entire verse, or I guess the UEE controlled verse. So, what kind of rewards are planned that are not simply access to more missions or payout? Are we going to get VIP landing pads closer to refineries, or access to the Hurston main building landing pads for easier access to mission givers and trade and such? That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So Rob says, this is absolutely something we're looking to expand. Our reward system in general is something that we want to evolve as we move forward. If you haven't already seen it appear on the roadmap, there is an epic, which is, what the production, call, I guess, feature, called Org Perks and Benefits. The epic task is going to start giving access to a multitude of things. So not only do we want to add the ability to give items as rewards in missions, but we also want to be able to offer things like, but not specifically limited to, lower expedite fees for ships for insurance, discounts at shops, hiring extra workers to repair ships, which will ultimately take time, resources, and people. Interesting. So without theory crafting too much, does that mean that in the future, right now you open up your Moby class, you choose to repair your ship, and then there are 4 options, repair, refuel, and rearm, and then another kind of refuel. Does that mean that not only will you press the button to do that, but also then there'll be a sub menu for how many workers you want to employ to do that task? Interesting. Alright, so free landing services at location X. So can always repair, restock, refuel for free at R-Corp. That's wild, for free. Ship rental time extensions or reduction in prices. Let's go for free? You know how expensive it is to refuel something like a Hercules or an 890 jump? That would definitely make it so much more of a thing to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make sure I am max rep with R-Corp, because I don't care how long the quantum journey is, I'm going back to R-Corp to repair, refuel, and rearm. That's cool, I like that idea. Who knows if they're gonna stick with that idea, but that's an interesting concept. So ship rental time extensions or reduction in prices, access to items gated at rep level at a shop, refining job priority, so currently it depends on the queue in front of you, so queue skipping for refining, and a free upgrade at refinery for what method is used to refine your goods. Let's really quickly open up that roadmap and have a look to see if this is actually there. Let's open up the progress tracker. Oh, so it's currently Wednesday, and sadly it's under maintenance. Oh well. If you're watching on YouTube, I guess check by on Twitter and see if check by on Twitch and see if we found out. All right, so as much and so much more that we'd I can't words now, and so much more that we'd add as we expand gameplay functionality. The bottom line is that all of our gameplay systems should be built in a way where we can easily add the functionality as an available option for some level of perk, which could be tied to much more than reputation, but rather to the reward system as a whole. So, what feature are you guys most looking forward to come to the reputation system in the short term and the long term? So Ben Dorsey says the feature we're most looking forward to is getting AI hostility to be driven by reputation. There's a bunch of moving parts to that, but it's one of the core elements that will allow the system to create the kind of engaging gameplay we really want. So they talked about this earlier with the coming across a Covalex like a convoy that's being attacked by pirates, and will those pirates attack you, or will they go, hey, join the fun? So, next question. Will all other main organizations like Red Wine Line Hall, Prot Life Insurance, Covalex Independent Contractors, etc. be added to the reputation system in the near future? So not only bounty missions are getting the percentage payout. To add, with all these major organizations, there would be, for now, the very basic feel of progression in the game till other systems are developed. It could be possible to make delivery missions and other missions that are not worth doing somewhat profitable from the basic payout. Also, it would feel like there is actually a reputation system for everything and not just bounty missions. Yeah, I was also slightly disappointed that it was only bounty missions, but of course it's the first step. So Will from Lore says, we're definitely planning on expanding to more mission types and organizations. What is in-game now was us taking first steps, so again what they call Tier 0. Rather than waiting to have all the organizations done at once, we will be doing a slower rollout to bring the older contracts into the system. Our long-term hope is that if you are doing a mission for most organizations, that you will almost always be earning reputation. There will be some exceptions, but we are trying to incorporate as many as makes sense. Maintenance for what? Just that roadmap maintenance. It's Wednesday right now, and so it's the second week as well, so every fortnight they release a new roadmap roundup, so the roadmap is under maintenance for the roadmap updates. So will you be able to hack your reputation with hacking gameplay, or hide it with ID spoofing? That's a cool idea. So we'd love the idea of temporarily spoofing your reputation to trick someone. It's been discussed, but not planned heavily out. Yeah, I mean, hacking your reputation to get a mission, I'm not so sure about, because they'd probably, like, you know, wisen up by the end of your mission. But, like, to at least not get shot, or to, like, hide from people, I think would be really cool. Yo, we just got raided by Morphologists. Thank you so much. Welcome, guys. We're currently looking at the reputation system right now. In fact, we just finished it, so let's go ahead and sign off. So, guys, thank you so much for, I guess, watching this with us. That was, of course, the AMA from last week talking about the reputation system. We do this every time they come out, and now we're going to be, I guess, posting them onto YouTube, because why not? We do the content, so we might as well share it in other places. If you like this, then please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. All right.